All right, today we're tying the Juju Midge. So if you like fishing tiny midge patterns, go ahead and hit that like button and drop a comment. Let us know your favorite small midge and how small you like tying them. So let's get started. We got a TMC 2488 in the vise in a size 18. This is probably a little bit large in some of this stuff, but that's all right. We could start a hook eye back or so, get that thread attached. Let's get it attached right. I'm using some 70 Denier white thread. If I were you, I would go for some, I'd go for some 10 or 12 thread. And I'll be honest, this fly was a bit intimidating for me. I bought all this material years ago, probably 5 years or more ago. But if I can tie it, you can tie it. So you can watch me tie it and you can go buy some materials for this thing. So the body of this is some Slinky fiber, which is some interesting material. It kind of follows 2 strands of one color, 1 strand of another. So here I have 2 strands of red and 1 strand of black. With this fly, I don't like going too far back into the bend. I feel like the further back into that bend that you go, the harder it is to wrap this material. So I stopped short from going really far back into that bend. And I figure that's okay because we're trying to make this a small fly. So if it ends up making this fly that's tied on a size 18, if it makes it look like a size 20, that's okay. So I find the hardest part of this thing is getting it started back here, going around the hook point, messing with the hook bend, and just getting these fibers that are kind of like a super thin mono, which means it's a little bit slippery, to sit next to each other and not slide all over. Because you want them to sit next to each other, not apart from each other, not on top of each other. And when you do that, you get a nicely segmented look. Now, at the end of the day, if you have some that are on top of each other, I don't think the fish are going to care. They are still going to eat these. There, see, I kind of hit the hook point slightly with that, and it kind of messed those up. So you really got to be careful to get around that hook point. But everything stays right where you want it. Back a little bit. Definitely have a tiny gap right there. You can see at my tie-in point, it got a little bit big with it. And that is where some 10-aught thread would really help with that, or even 12-aught thread. But sometimes we have what we have. Get that tied in really nicely. Don't want anything happening up here. I have had some times where I don't get that tied down super tight and it all pulls out. You don't want that happening. So take enough thread wraps to get that seated properly. Here's where I'll take this leftover stuff, I'll take some hackle pliers and just grab onto it and keep it for the next fly. I'm almost out there, so we'll just get rid of that. Before we look at this, let's throw a little whip finish in here so we can get our black thread on. Before we get going too far, a nice little whip finish will help with keeping all that stuff tight. Just a little whip finish, pull that knot tight, trim that out. There you can see a nicely segmented body with the red and the black. So now we're going to work on the thorax and wing case. Now I do have some 10-aught Veevus thread here in black. We'll just get started on the hook. Trim out that tag and just cover up some of that so we don't see any of that white thread. I like to kind of end, not quite where the back of that is, but it doesn't have to be the middle, it can be slightly back of that. And then I have some Fluoro fiber. I like to keep it in some hackle pliers to kind of keep it together. I have about 12 strands here. We don't need very much. It's actually very, very little. It's easy to tie way too much of this. So I square off the end of this, maybe a little better than what I did there, and tie it in right there at about the halfway. I don't want to get too close to the hook eye. I want this right on top and take it all the way back to down the back of that, which I want to kind of pull those fibers a little bit. There we go. Get them away from that hook eye. Here's where kind of start making your thorax. A little bit of a football shaped thorax here. Ending with your thread, maybe not at the hook, maybe slightly back from the hook eye. We want to leave ourselves room to whip finish. So now, take this wing case. Looks like I got one tiny fiber trapped in there. I'll just trim him out. Come back and get him closer. At the end, I like to keep some upward tension on that, so I can let go there and then get that tension again, let go and grab it, have that upward tension. Kind of keeping it away from the hook eye. Now we had like 12 fibers, so we want 6 on each side. Looks like I might have gotten 6. 2, 3. Got a little more. kind of just keep these together. You know, when you're tying to the far side, your thread tension is going to pull those down. So I have a little bit of upward tension on those. Take these other 6 over to my side of the hook, hold them a little bit down because the thread tension is going to want to pull them up. And that should keep everything right on the correct side. Cover up what we're seeing there. Okay. Now we can whip finish the head of this, which actually is kind of like a bead or a head of a fly. So good little whip finish. So you have a little bit of kind of a bulbous head on this fly. It's not like you're trying to keep the whip finish kind of secret or anything. It can build up a little bit, but just keep it out of. Okay. So now we have these, what you would think you'd call wings. They're actually supposed to imitate, well, legs. They're supposed to actually hit the camera. They're actually supposed to imitate wing buds. So you just kind of come back to the end of that wing case. Just trim them off. So they're just little wing buds sticking out there. And then now you have a nice little Juju Midge. Like I said earlier, go ahead and like this. If you love fishing small midge patterns, let us know in the comments what's your favorite midge and what size is that your favorite midge. And go ahead and don't forget to subscribe. Thanks for watching.